go ahead in carving the future of India. Ladies and gentlemen, with the stage setting, you know it's time for the debutante panel discussion, as we should say. So we'll be going ahead with the panel discussion where the MDs and the CEOs of banks will do the talking, will do the cracking. India's digital banking revolution, how banking will transform by 2034. Well, not just the future, not just how India would evolve, but also the current landscape as well. Before I do a quick context setting of how this session is going to look like, you may please pick up your mobile phones or your electronic gadgets and using our official hashtag, which is hashtag ETNow Digital Banking Summit 2024. Please share the most important key takeaway from Sri Joshi's session that you just witnessed. So that way, it's the world that learns what's happening at our summit. So on that note, yes, this panel discussion, as much as I'm aware, will talk about, it will talk a bit about AI, the machine learning, banking as a service, also the neobanks. We talk about the digital payments, the blockchain, the financial inclusion, all that and more. But I think it would be best that the experts do the talk. So if you all are ready to help me invite first up our session moderator while we're just setting up. May we please request the partner at PwC-Global Health Insurance Practice Leader and India Financial Services Advisory Leader from PwC to please join us. Please welcome our session moderator, Joydeep Roy, with a good round of applause. Mr. Roy, hi and a very, very warm welcome. Thank you. As towering as you are, I'm sure the insights are going to be towering for our audience members. If you do allow, can we please invite the who's who, your blue ribbon panel, the ones who are absolutely seasoned on the stage as well. Maybe take the pleasure of inviting the MD and CEO from Geo Payment Solution, Kashinath, Hariharan. May we request you to please join us on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to welcome the industry stalwarts with a brilliant round of cheer as we invite them. Next up, may we please request Naman Kapoor, the MD Head Payments and Liquidity India Subcontinent from Citibank to please join us. Mr. Kapoor, thank you very much for taking out the time and joining us here. Can we also request Rajeev Yadav, the Deputy CEO from AU Small Finance Bank to also take up the next. Thank you very, very much. And may I also invite the Chairman and MD of Sify Technologies, Raju, Vegesna, to also please join us. And having said that, our session moderator, Mr. Roy, is going to hold the contours of this discussion. Mr. Roy, it's going to be over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. I hope I am audible right at the back too. Yeah. So it's always a pleasure to come to ET Edge seminars. This is where minds meet, and it doesn't end only here. It goes on. Very, very illuminating discourse given by Mr. Joshi. Thank you, Mr. Joshi. I think you covered almost all the points that needs to be covered, maybe in greater detail in some of our sessions. So thanks for the curtain raiser. So this is a digital banking summit, and we are talking about digital banking of the future. Now, how long in the future? Well, the future is always here, isn't it? It's lying somewhere in some corner, waiting to succeed. There are always things of the future which are around us. What gets funded and what gets scaled finally succeeds, and this is something we will talk of almost with all the speakers here in the areas that we're going to focus on today. The second thing I want you to dwell on as we speak and talk about digital banking. Banking is a very important platform for financial inclusion, for everybody to transact, we know that, but so is the entire infrastructure of the capital markets of a country. The capital markets opens up sources of capital for industries to grow. And more than 20 years, almost, I say, yeah, maybe 18 to 19 years, we have one of the most advanced, highly transactive, fully transparent capital markets in the world. Very few countries achieved that 20 years back, and we did it. It was fully dematerialized. We had, just like the backbones of UPI and ONDCs and all, they were backbones which were set up, NSDL and got set up, dematerialization happened, stock transactions went from T+7 to T+3 to T+1, and the transparency, the 3-in-1 accounts, all of it happened and preceded digital banking. And the stock markets are also highly transactive. All the issues of fraud or funds and transaction issues, everything was there. But we, as a country, we achieved it. Now, it is very interesting why we achieved that in the stock markets and simultaneously we did not achieve it in banking. And there's something which I ask everyone to think back. There's no easy answer. It's history. But that sort of probably should give us a bit of a insight on what to really do to quickly make sure that digital banking with its full access and inclusion becomes a reality so that every citizen really transacts digitally and not a hybrid situation that we have today. Okay, so with that, we come to our eminent speakers. And my first question, well, for the lack of any other order, I am going to ask to Kashinath, who's now heading one of the most recent organizations of promise. So with access to so many different consumers across the group. So Kashinath, the whole market is now talking about Gen AI, it's talking of machine learning, it's talking of how to really reach out to retail and SME clients. And that should be on the agenda of every financial organization today. But at the same time, the other issue which is coming is that with how hyper-personalized can we make our offerings as one of the manifestations of digital and data and analytics. So predictive insights, which Mr. Joshi also talked about, prediction about consumer behavior, only less than 10% of banks globally are effectively using them. How do you see it panning out in India in the next 10 years?
I think, thank you so much, Joydeep. I think, that begets a very interesting discussion. Let me start off by saying that the whole context of AI and ML, there's a technology aspect to it and there is a adoption aspect of it. So the way I look at it is that, let me zoom in on financial services and banks. So the entire discussion is today more focused on how do banks adopt AI, ML, etc. in their processes, and how do they streamline and better serve their customers and so on and so forth. Now, this is a very inward-looking view as far as the bank is concerned. Of course, it does a lot of good for the bank, or it will do as we kind of move along, largely in terms of improving productivity and decreasing cost of operation, or maybe getting better insights and stuff like that. But that's all what the banks gain. Now, I want to bring a very interesting and tangential aspect to this that will be transformative with respect to how this whole thing will evolve. Is that why are we thinking that only banks and institutions will have AI?
That's true.
Okay, I want to say that everybody here could have an AI assistant. And very soon it's going to be happening. So there would be companies that will sell AI products to bank, and there would be companies that would sell AI products to you and me. So I hire an agent, so I may have an educational assistant or an overall assistant, etc., etc. Now, what happens? Now, you are the bank. Now, you want to personalize and stream things to me. So you have implemented AI. I will let my AI loose onto you. So my AI will interact with your AI. Now, that's a very, very interesting, dimension, because the whole construct today has been, as I said, very inward-looking. I mean, I have worked in banks for a long time. That how can I use AI and ML to better my lot in terms of my ability to sell better, faster, higher, and blah, 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 and those things. But this dimension, that the customer on the other side can also be an intelligent, hyper intelligent, where he lets his bot or whatever the intelligent assistant let loose on bank to say that, say a bank gives you a call and say, hey, look, or wants to sell something. So I will say that, I'm too busy for all of this. So I'll let my AI agent kind of deal with you. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. So I will subscribe to an AI agent to do all my tasks like that. So now let's understand the second order impact of this. The first order impact is that the banks will have to rethink their strategy to approach. So no longer you are approaching an individual with a normal human intelligence. You're going to approach an individual with equal or better computing power than the bot or the intelligence you had in the first place. The so it's AI versus AI, Karthik calling Karthik equivalent kind of stuff. So I think that is the future. So this will mean a lot of data. This will mean a lot of issues that will come across in terms of, in the previous, in the inaugural address, Sumnesh sir kind of made those things about machine talking to machines, issues of data privacy, issue of, how does one look at, ethical issues. So all these issues are things that will crop up. But I, for one, since we're talking about 10 years from now, this is a certainty to happen. And, this is not just for imagination that it will happen only in this group. I would tend to think that the democratization of AI can go down to the last mile, to the marginal people as well, because, with the mobile phone penetration, these services are available on call, and that would actually create better personas of what a customer can seek out of a bank. So it's no longer what the bank understands of you, it's also I understand myself better, and therefore I demand even more customized products and services and hyper-personalization, which the bank has to then really fend and get. So it's really going to be a segment of one. N is equal to 1. It's no longer, we have to depart from that thing of cohorts and, homogeneous or, groups and clusters and stuff like that. It's really going to be a cluster of one. So that's why I think that AI/ML will take banking too.
Well, that's interesting, and because that's going to hit almost all industries, whatever you're talking about. And banking industry is slightly different because it holds the trust and for the transactional whole purity of any other industry. And that's why I think banks will dwell more on this and both the ethical security and all of that rather than maybe a retail industry. But you never know how regulations evolve. So let me move to the other end of the spectrum, and I'd just like to move to Raju Vegesna. So from the way all these things become reality is scale. And India has a domestic scale. But sometimes some innovations, some entire, great, things which are the companies which come onto the market, they don't get the scale and they just do not measure up to the overall consumer expectations. We have now, on the other hand, again, great platforms like UPI, the India Stack, ONDC, and so many others. And maybe CBDC can become another platform for people to innovate on. The India Stack, as per India Stack website itself, in December last year alone, there were 67 billion digital identity verifications, which means people are using them. It's not just that it is not used. So what do you think are the factors which are going to propel innovations in payments and banks and banking and investments and all to really achieve scale?
Thank you, Joydeep. So I am not a banker, but I'm a technology provider for the banks. So I look at my perspective, how the digital banking is going to grow. Like Mr. Joshi mentioned, we made a lot of advance in the last 10 years, like building Aadhaar, building UPI, building a lot of technologies, but that is gives us power to the rest of the world, the most advanced countries, but now taking to the next level. That is going to be the next our challenge. See, that is the reason why talking to 2034, what is India stack we need to build? I will take into multiple aspects. One is scale. So having India 1.4 billion people, and I don't measure the poverty line, and the people who can spend money. So every year, if you get 25 million people who can consume the products, they have to do financial transactions. So that gives us enough scale where we can develop India stack, India IP. That's what makes what is next 10 years? That's what we have to build India. To build, and we are going to sell it to the rest of the world. That is going to be our next challenge. So far, we build our infrastructure, our applications from outside. We are more of a consumers. Now, how we are going to produce products for next 10 years to show our leadership? I think India is ready, my point of view, because of the scale and the opportunities to build products for India stack, be it AI, be it cybersecurity, be it governance, policies. So I will take these segments separately. We're talking about AI. Is India ready for AI? So I look at it, AI, it's not just a word, and there are so many things has to be developed for AI. First, we need to have a good data. Yep. We need to have good data. How many people, how many banks, I looked at it, I deal with a lot of the banks, being one of the biggest digital network and data center provider in the country, especially in the banking industry. We look at the data. How much data really available? I think there's a lot more. We need to get a good data. Second, is it our digital infrastructure is ready to do AI? So once you are getting to the AI, we need to build solid infrastructure, be it network, be it data centers, and be it IT infrastructure, and what applications. The way I look at it, I think it's going to be evolving. I think, and the knowledge of the people, we need to build these, operate these models. So I think it's going to take some time, and it's a progressive way we are going to do. I think having a biggest IT resources, how do we transform the knowledge of these people to handle this AI? So all these things has to be happen to really lead AI. It's not just one thing. So these are 4, 5. Then cybersecurity. When you are leaving some of the data from your heart, and you are being in some data centers or a cloud, private, public, or hybrid, and you are unavoidable hybrid working, whether you work from the office or a home in the transit, that is where the world is going to grow. So what kind of security you are providing for your data? So what are the models we are building? SASE, at the edge, the banks, transactions with cybersecurity. So looking at all these angles, my perspective, for India, AI and digital considered to be a third wave. First, we went through the Y2K. We took a great opportunity with our English and mathematical skills. Mm-hmm. Then we went BPOs. We transformed. Now, India's chance to transform in AI and digital. That's the way I look at it, looking from outsider. What is the opportunities for India? Banking, for me, is one of the biggest leading industry, which takes the technologies to the forefront. Yep. then some of the manufacturing industries. So, but the banks, digital banking, is going to play a big role to drive the technology. That's what my perspective.
Oh, thank you. And that's very pivotal because if we are talking of a third wave, uh, productivity is a goal of every organization, along with security. So if that third wave is where India can play even a bigger part than the other two large transformational things which you mentioned, I think that transpires across economies and in the entire Indian economy. So then that brings me to the question of security and the entire thing about both cybersecurity as well as digital challenge. So Rajeev, my question to you would be based on the fact that, see, we do a global CEO survey every year. Last year's CEO survey has shown globally, which includes India, and India is no different, even the India cut shows the same, that 49% of the CEOs are picking up cybersecurity as one of their top two priorities. So it's either one or two. Digital transformation also is very handsomely present. So these two thoughts are going together. Everyone is wanting to get more and more digital, but along with that, cybersecurity. And this is the PwC-Global CEO survey, so which is going on for years. So while cybersecurity used to be number 5 or number 6, 4-5 years back, I think post-COVID, as people have moved more digital, it has moved up. So my question to you, Rajiv, is look at it from a practitioner's point of view, in retail banking versus commercial banking and commercial banking, whichever way you look at it. What are the real challenges on the ground that you see? Cybersecurity could be a threat which you guard against, but how do you see this? Or do you actually see it as a challenge at all? And if you see it, how do you look at it as a challenge in rolling out innovations in products and services? And how do you also deal with the regulatory expectations regarding that?
Okay. Thank you, Joydeep. So I represent AU, which is the largest small finance bank, and it's an absolutely it's a retail bank with a financial inclusion objective, with about 1.1 crore customers, and the bank has been established over the last 7 years. Now, as you can understand, a new bank, it's retail focused and which has scaled up from a zero starting point 7 years back to a 1 lakh crore balance sheet and more than a 1 lakh crore balance sheet, besides doing the products and the geographies and the strategies right, one of the biggest things that we have to work on and have achieved is the huge digital framework that we have built this bank on. And the 2 points which were raised as what are the key expectations in this world in a digital banking context is our CEO's context. And I was myself the MD of FinCare Small Finance Bank, which has just merged into AU. So from a very practical perspective and a pragmatic perspective, digital transformation was the core of building the AU Small Finance Bank or FinCare Small Finance Bank in the last 7 years. And when people used to ask me about the risk in the banking context today, and a very common question which is asked is what keeps us, a senior leader awake in the night? And my simple answer was it has to be cybersecurity, and this has been my consistent answer over the last 3-4 years, because I'll put this because the cyber technology, the IT framework is a black box to almost everybody inside the organization, including the CEOs or the CXOs. And today, we can conceive and see a lot of risks which are operational, which are credit, which are fundamental inherent in the processes. And we can see them, measure them, control them, and fundamentally they are finite. In a larger context, you can say, in a worst case scenario, I would have this much of a loss and you can quantify it and you can plan for it. But cybersecurity is a risk which you cannot see, very difficult to visualize for people who have been traditionally brought up doing regular functions or regular businesses in a banking context. And you cannot box it in a certain value. You know, it is an open system beyond a point, and if something happens in a banking context, you can talk of a single-digit crore, double-digit crore, or triple-digit crore as an incident, which can happen overnight, over a weekend, in a late night hours. So, because of the fact that you cannot see it, you cannot even understand it. Most of us are quite incompetent to even understand what is a threat inside a technology network. And the magnitude being so large, it has to be, you know, a point of concern. And as you know, as the world is getting very, very aggressive at each other, the countries are fighting each other, the tool that is being used is a cyber security tool. The cyber security risks are multiplying every single day, and we are becoming targets from all directions out there. So I think absolutely right that we are doing that. Now, you know, when you look at it from a regulator perspective, what we see from close quarters is regulator has a huge degree of supervision concerns on the way the banks work. But at least half of the concerns or half the focus of that goes on to the cybersecurity side of it. And I think RBI is very progressive with all the banks in terms of the policies, the checks that they do. So I think it's a very evolved subject, but thanks to regulatory framework, thanks to the way the whole banking industry is focused on it, I think we have reached fairly sophisticated positions. And today I would say sitting inside the bank, thanks to all these things, we are at a fairly comfortable stage. The world is going to explode on digital. It's going to be digital transformative. Everything is API. We can look at banking 10 years back. We can look at banking pre-COVID. We can look at banking post-COVID. It is absolute digital on the inside. And the more we do it, the customers will be speaking to computers, and the customers will be speaking straight through processes, and AI and ML, which were just terminologies 3 years back, would make a real difference in the next 3 years. And pretty much data privacy, say cybersecurity, and all that stuff will be the core focus of all leaders in the future.
Thanks, Rajeev. I think the point you brought up about it being a black box is something which needs to be, you know, elaborately understood because more and more, as people have become digitally savvy themselves as a user, people have started understanding how a transaction processing system works, how an accounting system works, which were also black boxes at one point of time. But truly, the cyber systems are they're you know, like the decoy systems of cyber, for example, is probably not even understood by everybody in cyber security itself. So interesting thought. I mean, that's probably a lack of understanding sometimes can create barriers. And that brings me to a topic where we have been earlier hearing about software as a service, people offering managed services to organizations. Telecom, for example, is moved a lot to that. AMC business works like looking at their entire operations are sort of outsourced as a service. What about banking? And that brings me to Naman Kapoor from Citi. So Naman, my question to you would be, how do you look at the evolution of banking as a service? Anyone who wants to open a banking service today, need not be a whole bank, probably has access to or can ask for organizations, technology organizations, to provide them with the entire infrastructure end to end. But is it going to happen? Is our core systems going to move to cloud? If not, what services? How do you see BaaS really proliferating, if at all?
Thanks, Joydeep. So I think banking as a service is a topic or a phrase that has been discussed a lot, and there are a lot of views around it, right? But at the same point of time, if you look at the earlier views, a lot of it was always around payments, right? Payments and just that around banking as a service. But I think from a Citi perspective, and a lot of banks have now started looking at it much broadly across the entire life cycle, across the customer life cycle, across the customer flows. So if we look at it, there is accept, hold, pay, and finance. Those are the 4 stages from a customer finance journey perspective. And banking as a service should be looked at across all 4 of them, and that's where it is going towards the future and futuristic. If we go back to what we discussed in the keynote, right? Mr. Joshi referred to 2 examples which are very pertinent. First is the whole IoT example. IoT is a great payments kind of a use case for banking as a service, there are some very good POCs and proof of concepts that are happening around dairy services. As soon as the dairy services and dairy is finishing, it should get ordered, payment should get made, it should get delivered. That's a great example. Mr. Joshi also covered the whole student loan example, which takes me to the finance piece, the fourth leg that we spoke about. So similarly, banking as a service can get incorporated into the schools, into the universities, IITs, IIMs we spoke about, and as soon as the student needs a loan, that's where the instant, real-time, instant gratification finance can happen. So those are two directly that come to mind to how Mr. Joshi referred to some of the use cases, right? Now, if you look at banking as a service globally, I think Citi and most of the banks, foreign banks, Indian banks, offer it in multiple ways, and there are a few drivers to it that are very crucial. The first, Joydeep, like you referred to, is the whole tech stack, right? I think you can't do banking as a service without the tech stack. So I think from banks, and most of the banks from a monolithic architecture, are moving into a cloud, microservices, high velocity, low latency, always on kind of an architecture, right? Citi is also one of those in 40 countries. We've been focusing a lot on payment, and then products that go hand in hand to banking as a service are payer ID, virtual accounts, all of those kind of banking products. So that is one big driver for it, which is the tech stack that we spoke about. I think banking as a service is getting propelled a lot with the whole e-commerce growth. I think in India, everything that's going into the apps, the whole physical commerce, moving into digital commerce. In 2034, I think India wants to be the second largest e-commerce, which is almost growing at about 27%. That, again, is to be a massive driver of banking as a service, that the banks actually plug themselves into various marketplaces, into various payment intermediaries, so that they come at the background, and as soon as the e-commerce happens, the payment happens at the back end. Nobody wants to make a payment. The objective is commerce, and payments should be at the back end and be completely seamless. That's the second big driver that's happening. The third, which is a big one, which Mr. Rajeev referred to as well, is the whole change in the proliferation of APIs. Almost 80 to 90% of the firms, especially in financial services, have moved from online banking to file to all APIs. That, again, trigger-based APIs is going to be a key part of banking as a service as we go along. And Joydeep referred to cloud piece, right? I think FICCI recently did a survey which spoke about that 80% of the financial services entities are looking at least 30% of the data on the cloud. Just basis the size of financial services, that's a lot of cloud adoption, right? So if you put all of these pieces together that I've spoken about, then the future in 2034 looks more like we've been talking about payments being invisible, banking being invisible, but really, truly with banking as a service, the person does the commerce flow, or like we discussed, is a student in a university, and through all the triggers that we spoke about, banking should be as seamless, as invisible, and as frictionless as possible, and that's the future of banking as a service in 2034.
Thank you, Noman. In fact, I don't think we really have to move to 2034. Many of the things that you are talking about probably will materialize, and it will keep coming. There's no one great revolution. We are talking of an evolution of the whole industry, and many of the manifestations of that we will be seeing based on usage. It's also how much we use each service. How much, if the service providers, the supply side, I don't think is a constraint anymore. I think it's a question of utilization. So dwelling on that, going a little bit deeper, I'll go back to, Raju Vegesna. You were talking about this, as a revolution. And the previous two revolutions produced very large employment opportunities, both Y2K, and therefore there was a whole supply side modernization happened in the education, training, and standard of living. So did the BPO revolution. How do you see this third one, which is AI, ML, blockchain, metaverse, all of these put together? If these are being put to use and India takes a leading spot, will this be aiding employment, or will this be more of the productivity gains which we will create in the world?
So that's a very good question. A lot of people ask me this question. including my staff, what is going to do for AI? What is going to happen to my job? So my first question I say, is internet cost jobs? Internet did not cost jobs. Internet helped to create jobs. So any technology, it gives you that fear, right? This is going to take my job. Yes, it's going to take your job if you're doing the same thing, right? If you are trying to do booking, calling the agent, airline, you lost that job. Now we are doing bookings by online. So the way I look at how internet created jobs and internet enabled the whole world connected and the knowledge, I look at the same way. Artificial intelligence, these technologies will help the humankind to reach to the next level. So with that next level, the whole world will get benefited. And what are the technologies you're looking for? Either banking or health sciences, manufacturing, all aspects. It brings to the next level and creates the new jobs and more skilled jobs. And the whole world is going to change it to the next level of the knowledge. That is where I see it's going to create more jobs into the next level.
No, excellent. And that's a great point of view. And again, delving deeper, Kashinath, you spoke about the cluster of one. Now, the moment we get out from, say, either a mass customization or even a persona down to a cluster of one, we are talking exact information. We are not telling now that you are like somebody, you are a 35-year-old employed, and therefore I'm trying to sell you this product. We are telling you, we know you. So think of thinking of that. How do you think it's going to manifest in resistance from consumers, if at all? That everyone will know everything about me, right? If they come to sell to me as a cluster of one. What are the manifestations of that you foresee?
So I think the biggest, the short answer given the time, is the biggest manifestation is that there will be empowering frameworks that will come which will allow customers to monetize their data, which today is literally absent. So today you get to know about me and you market to me and you benefit in the process, you being either the channel or the marketer or the product company. I'm the guy who kind of consume it. So I think the biggest manifestation would be, I don't underestimate the power of the common man kind of thing. So AI, etc., will enable me or anyone to know about myself more than I know in the ordinary way. That, hey, look, this is my data footprint and how might I go and market it? So I think I would see a new breed of consumers who would be completely aware about the power of themselves and their surrounding data, that they go themselves and start marketing them to companies for a price. So I think it's a reverse equation that will come. But today there's a asymmetry in the data and the flow of money. I think this whole asymmetry will start to change once data gets democratized.
Very interesting. In fact, in the earlier days when we had to open, let's say, a demat account and or a loan account, I had to sign on 52 pages. I always thought if I was a celebrity, I would have charged for each of the autographs, right? I couldn't do that, unfortunately. So, Rajeev, we were talking about security and the regulatory enablement. Specifically, let's come to the cloud issue. Do you think the public cloud for banking is a reality, or it will continue to be private clouds, clustered clouds, airtight clouds, or containerized apps, management? Do you think it is going to be those, you can say, morphed versions of capability, or the full capability of the cloud will be available for banking?
Very good question, Joydeep. So actually, we are the beneficiaries of now having migrated to public cloud. And RBI has very progressively brought out specific policies of financial institutions to migrate to public cloud and what they have to follow. The interesting variant is that we are one of the early adopters, and we have done that, but we have also done it in a balanced manner. That we've taken the view that a core banking system or a treasury system or critical systems which hold a lot of data and transactions, they need not be the first applications or the main applications that they go to public cloud. And we have cautiously kept them in a private cloud infrastructure. But having said that, the whole digital layer which surrounds all these applications, which the customers use to interact with the bank, the UPI applications, the mobile bankings, the internet bankings, and you talk of all the peripheral employee-led applications which are used by the employees to interact with the customers. The whole digital layer of the bank, we have been one of the early adopters of taking that to the public cloud, follow all the regulations which have been laid out. The regulations are now fairly precise. It is also helping the cloud providers to adopt their solutions to those regulations which they were not doing earlier. Now, having the regulator taken a very clear position on them, they have also become more flexible on that. So I today see a world that leaving out the absolute core of the banking world, which should be on the private cloud today, given continued beliefs around security, some of the risk around security. But we should adopt public cloud for all the digital apps which need hyperscalability during the day, during peak times, and just the whole convenience to the customers. I think a hybrid model has become a reality and should become a greater reality in the future.
Thank you, Rajeev. So we are running short on time. So last question on the stage, Naman, and maybe a pointed answer to this. A lot of what we have been talking about so far, we have dwelt with regulators, we've dwelt with technology, we've dwelt with future, with a lot of consumer in mind. But how do you think this will benefit commercial, corporate clients, SME clients, which are institutions rather than individuals? Is there any difference that or a shade of different thinking that we need to do, or all that we spoke about will apply equally?
I think most of it would apply to the corporate clients as well. But I think if you look at all the globalization that's happening in India, one of the biggest pain points has been cross-border payments. I think that is one landscape with a lot of stuff that we spoke about around AI, around cloud, around cybersecurity. I think that which has been the kind of holy grail of banking and payments and making that real time, I think that's going to change a lot. And amongst the emerging technologies, I think the blockchain piece is something that would significantly change it. There are a lot of work that's happening either through a piece that we're doing globally and in US called Regulated Liability Network, which again solves for that and uses everything that we discussed on the stage, and some stuff that we're doing even on the Citi token services, which is smart contracts and DLT put together. So I believe that from corporate client perspective, cross-border payments, pain point, transparency, visibility, cheaper, all of that will be the biggest benefit to corporate clients.
Thank you, and I think you raised the point, which is a great finishing message, again, for everyone to dwell on. If regulated liability networks can work, if blockchains can work and provide the trust architecture, auditability, and trail, would we need banks? Just like, do we really need exchanges? If trust is paramount and is maintained across the network, which no one manages but everyone participates in, I think food for thought for another day. With that, we come to the close of this session. Great points of view. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Raju. Thanks, Rajeev. Thanks, Naman and Kashinath. Wonderful points of view. Raises more questions than answers, and that's how I think each session should be. Thank you very, very much.
And thank you, Joydeep. Thanks a lot for moderating that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, panel. May we request you to please rise for a group photograph there as well. But with your round of applauses, ladies and gentlemen, let's definitely extend a hearty one to all our leading gentlemen on the stage. Of course, the conversations spearheaded by Mr. Roy. But thank you so much to all of you for talking about how does, and giving us a sneak peek as with whatever time we had as to how does the future